Welcome to the Golden Gems podcast. Today, we're taking a deep dive into Dr. Sebi, the architect of the $18 billion Alkaline empire, who died in police custody.
It's a huge topic.
Yeah.
And, looking at the date today, Valentine's Day, 2026, the timing is incredibly specific.
It really is. I was just looking at the market reports. As of this morning, the global market for CMOS, for alkaline derivatives, it just tipped over that $18 billion mark.
It's everywhere.
Completely. It's in face creams. It's in $50 smoothies. You can't walk into a high-end grocery store without seeing it.
And that's the paradox we really have to get into today. This entire massive, shiny industry is running on the biological blueprint of a man who never set foot in a medical school.
A man who, let's be honest, was called a fraud for most of his career.
Exactly. And that's the core tension. You have these huge corporations patenting the very herbs he cataloged, selling them at a massive premium. Well, the man himself, Dr. Sebi, he died in police custody.
So the establishment basically gentrified his work.
They gentrified the methodology and criminalized the man. They've commodified the what and completely erased the why. So our mission here is to figure out, how do we get to this point?
And to do that, we have to go way back.
Way back. Past the grocery store aisles of 2026, all the way back to Honduras.
Ilonga, Honduras,
Right.
November 26th, 1933. That's where Alfredo Darrington Bowman was born.
And you have to picture the environment. It's lush, it's unpolluted. It's a world that is biologically so distinct from the sanitized West.
And he didn't have formal schooling, right?
None. Not in the way we think of it. He didn't learn to read or write until much, much later. And normally, you'd frame that as a deficit, a disadvantage.
But for him, it was an asset.
It was his primary asset.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't learning biology from a textbook that had been, vetted by the pharmaceutical industry. His lens hadn't been ground by anyone else.
He was learning directly from nature, but he had a teacher.
He did. His grandmother, Mama Hay. She raised him in the Garifuna tradition.
And the Garifuna are descendants of West and Central African, Island Carib, and Arawak people.
Right. So their botanical knowledge, it predates Columbus by centuries. For them, plants weren't supplements. That's a modern idea.
It was survival technology.
That's the perfect way to put it. But, and this is the turn in the story, young Alfredo leaves all that behind. He tries to make it in the industrial world.
He becomes a steam engineer on merchant ships.
Right. He plugs himself directly into the industrial machine, the fumes, the chemicals, the processed food. And the toll it takes on his body is, well, it's immense.
By his 30s, he's a wreck. The list of ailments is staggering. Obesity, diabetes, impotence, asthma.
He becomes the standard patient in the eyes of Western medicine. Just a collection of symptoms you manage, you don't cure.
He sees doctors in LA, in New York, and they all tell him the same thing.
They offer maintenance. Here's a pill for this, an injection for that. They could help him manage his decline, but they couldn't reverse it.
And that failure is what sends him looking for something else.
It sends him to Mexico to find a very specific herbalist. And this part, it almost sounds like a legend.
The 90-day fast.
A 90-day fast. No food, just specific herbs, water, and purging the system. It's incredibly intense.
But the results were transformative.
Completely.
Huh.
Diabetes, gone. Asthma, gone. Impotence, reversed. But more important than the physical change was the psychological one.
He loses faith in germ theory.
Totally. He decides that pathology isn't some external invader. It's internal toxicity. And that's the moment, as the source material says, that Alfredo Bowman died and Dr. Sebi was born.
And this is where he develops his whole framework. The African biomineral balance.
Yes, and his central thesis is deceptively simple. He says there's only one disease.
Mucus.
Just mucus.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Because when I hear mucus, I just think of a common cold. He's talking about something deeper.
Much deeper. He's talking about the mucous membrane and the buildup of acidic waste at a cellular level. His whole idea is that the location of the mucus determines the name of the disease.
Right, so if that acidic waste builds up in your lungs.
Doctors call it pneumonia. If it builds up in the pancreas and blocks insulin.
They call it diabetes.
Exactly. If it's in the joints, it's arthritis. To him, they aren't separate illnesses. They're just symptoms of the same core problem, an acidic, compromised system.
Which puts him in line with terrain theory.
Antoine Béchamp's terrain theory, yeah. The old rival to Pasteur's germ theory. Pasteur says the germ is the problem. Béchamp and Sebi would say the terrain, the health of your body, determines whether that germ can even take root.
And this all leads to his nutritional guide, the electric foods. This is where a lot of people get tripped up. Why did he hate carrots?
Ah, the carrots. It's because he saw the body as a bioelectric machine. It needs electric fuel. And he made a distinction between electric and hybrid foods.
Electric foods being wild, native plants, like sea moss.
Right. And hybrid foods are things like carrots, corn, modern soy, things that humans created through crossbreeding.
So he saw them as genetically modified, in a sense?
He saw them as genetically incomplete. He argued that crossbreeding creates starch, and to him, starch was a binder, a glue. It clogs the system and creates an acidic state. He believed if a food was made by man, it couldn't properly fuel a body made by nature.
That is a radical idea. And armed with this, he moves to the U.S. in the 80s, sets up an office in Brooklyn.
And you have to look at who he's talking to. He's speaking to a black community that has, a very deep inherent mistrust of the medical establishment.
Tuskegee isn't some abstract history lesson.
Not at all. And then here comes this man who looks like them, who speaks with authority, who isn't asking for an insurance card. He's offering empowerment.
And herbal compounds, Bioferro, Viento, things like that.
Yes, and telling them to stop eating meat, dairy, all starch, and the word-of-mouth stories start spreading like wildfire.
But anecdotes aren't data, especially not in a courtroom. Which brings us to 1987.
The trial. This is the centerpiece of the entire story, because he didn't just quietly treat people, he took out an ad.
A full-page ad in the Amsterdam News, the NY Post, the Village Voice. It's unbelievably bold.
It's a declaration of war. It says, AIDS has been cured by the Usha Research Institute, and then lists cures for sickle cell, lupus, herpes, cancer.
You just can't do that.
You cannot. The New York Attorney General, Robert Abrams, immediately charges him. Practicing medicine without a license. Consumer fraud. It's an open and shut case, or so they think.
Because the burden of proof was on Sebi.
Which is the incredible part. The state didn't have to prove he was a fraud. He had to prove he was telling the truth. He had to prove he actually cured people.
An impossible task.
Seemingly. So what does he do? He brings 77 witnesses to court.
77.
77. And they don't just tell stories. They come with binders full of medical records. Document A. Here's my positive diagnosis for AIDS from a licensed hospital. Document B. Here's my negative test result after Dr. Sebi's treatment.
And the state had no answer for that.
None. How do you argue with 77 documented cases of remission? The judge was floored.
The verdict comes back.
It's not guilty.
That should have been the biggest medical story of the decade.
It should have been front-page news worldwide. It should have triggered a massive scientific inquiry.
Instead,
total media blackout.
Yeah.
But on the streets, the legend just exploded. He became the man who cured the incurable and beat the system.
And that's when the high-profile clients start showing up.
Michael Jackson came to him to wean off painkillers. And, of course, Lisa Left Eye Lopes from TLC.
She was a huge proponent of his work.
A huge advocate. She was actually in Honduras filming a documentary about him when she died in that tragic car crash in 2002.
But with that level of fame, the attacks just got more intense.
Oh, yeah. The character assassination was systematic. The medical establishment just labeled it all pseudoscience, dismissing the alkaline theory without ever really engaging with his specific claims about intracellular acidity.
It's a classic case of talking past each other.
And it all culminates in 2016.
The arrest in Honduras, the official charge was money laundering.
He was carrying about $37,000 in cash, which sounds like a lot, but it was documented revenue from his business. He was traveling with his associate.
But they detained him, an 82-year-old man.
And they put him in a Honduran prison cell. For a man whose entire philosophy is built on pristine environments and electric foods, that's a death sentence.
His health just plummeted. He contracted pneumonia.
And he died in custody on August 6th, 2016.
And that's where the story gets even more layered, because you have to talk about Nipsey Hussle.
You absolutely do. Nipsey Hussle was working on a documentary, not just about Sebi in general, but specifically about the 1987 trial, about the fact that he won.
He wanted to expose the suppression of that story.
Exactly. And then, in 2019, Nipsey is murdered.
Now, we can't get into conspiracy theories.
No, but you have to acknowledge the cultural narrative that formed. For a huge number of people, those two events feel connected. It solidified the belief that there was a concerted effort to silence this knowledge.
Which brings us full circle, back to today. Sebi is dead, but his brand is everywhere.
The brand is ubiquitous, but it's completely severed from the man and his politics. You can buy the $50 sea moss gel.
In a plastic bottle.
In a plastic bottle that's leaching chemicals into the very alkaline product that's supposed to detox you. It's a perfect metaphor. They've neutralized the threat while profiting from the cure.
They turned a revolution into a wellness trend.
They took his radical critique of the entire Western food system as a tool of colonial control, and they turned it into a lifestyle brand. But the core knowledge, it's still out there.
The vault is still open?
The trial transcripts, the lectures, they're preserved online, and there's a new generation of herbalists who are applying the actual principles, not just the Instagram aesthetic.
So at the end of the day, we're left with this question.
Yeah. Why is a man who won a court case where he proved he could cure these so-called incurable diseases?
Yeah.
Why is he a footnote instead of a chapter in our medical textbooks?
Is his science flawed, or was it just bad for business?
That's the question you have to ask yourself. And are we, as a culture, ready to reject the comfort of this hybrid world for the discipline of the electric one?
A lot to think about.
The world took the key, melted it down, and sold it back to us as jewelry. We're wearing the cure, but we forgot what it unlocks.
Thank you for listening to the Golden Gems podcast. We'll be back next time with another deep dive. Until then, keep exploring, keep listening, and keep celebrating the power of uncompromising voices.